Are we or aren't we in a recession? This question fills the minds of many American citizens, politicians, and economists.
It is typical for areas in Maine to have a little flooding in the spring due to the melting snow. But for the people in northern Maine, especially in Fort Kent, this past April was no typical spring. The flooding was the worst in nearly 30 years, and some scientists called it a 100-year event. What is the government response? Could it happen in Saco? Vaughn Pila has a report.
Who would have thought that birthdays could cause possible ramifications on your education? If you have a birthday lying within the fall months, you may have been through this dilemma. Should parents let their children go to kindergarten when they are younger than the other students, or hold them back a year? Correspondent Kevin Foley has our report. Regardless of the terminology, Americans are feeling the pinch. There are several issues throwing the nation into a possible recession, including record-high gas prices, the decline of the U.S. dollar, and the burst of the housing bubble. With gas prices rocketing to record heights nearing $4 a gallon, prices rise on all other goods and services that depend on transportation. In the airline industry, for example, Delta has disbanded numerous flights and made major cuts in an attempt to stay afloat.
The most photographed lighthouse resides here. Portland Headlight awes tourists as well as residents. This all may be nice, but this park will no longer be free to all visitors if Cape Elizabeth gets its way. The Cape Elizabeth Town Committee is recommending charging a $5 fee for each car that enters the park.
Sponsored by the Saco Bay Democrats, the Family Loggers Pancake Breakfast is an annual event, but this is no ordinary pancake breakfast. Politicians and candidates got an opportunity to serve breakfast to average citizens while promoting their message and viewpoints. Even with that being said, in a recent poll done by Critical Insights in the fall of 2007, it shows that in all of Maine, Susan Collins has 52% to your 33%. And even in your congressional district, she has 49% to your 36%. What are your thoughts and feelings towards that?
The polls don't matter at all.
At all?
A year before. Not at all. I mean, you may remember, you might not remember, given your age, but George Mitchell was 36 points down when he was first appointed to the Senate.
Let's stay on the issue of education for a moment. In a letter that you sent out to honor roll students at TA, you say, quote, "Education is an essential tool for building a successful future." What are you specifically doing to ensure that Maine's education system is an essential tool for students to build those successful futures?
Well, as I mentioned before, we have passed a bill to increase the cost of education, even though that the number of students since 1978 have declined by 16%.
Let's turn to those specific issues, starting with the Iraq War. It is stated on your website that you call the Iraq War, quote, "a failure to describe the mission, a failure to communicate the importance of the mission, a failure to execute the mission," and yet you don't support an immediate troop withdrawal.
Yeah.
What is your plan and strategy for Iraq?
That's a good... that was written prior to the General Petraeus and Ryan Crocker testimony back in September.
Okay.
I will give you, that was my concern leading up to that testimony.
No state law we enact is going to make up those pollutants go away. It is up to my office to protect the people of Maine, and if they are being harmed by any lack of action on the part of the federal government, it's my duty to make a legal challenge, and that's a quote from yourself. You filed a lawsuit against the federal government on this issue. Can you explain your reason why?
Well, we filed a number where we joined other states, and we led some, and we joined other states on others to file a suit against our National Environmental Protection Agency.
Now, Governor Baldacci has stated that eliminating the administrative redundancy will reduce cost, benefiting taxpayers. How sizable will that reduction be?
It's a significant reduction. We actually provided documentation. We have proposed almost $60 million in savings that can be achieved.
You continue to say, we have sufficient security staff to provide marshals for active courtrooms. However, we have no security for hallways or entrances, and we have no staff dedicated to screening for weapons at the front doors. Can you comment on that subject of court security?
Sure, absolutely. It's one of the biggest concerns that I have in attempting to provide a safe and accessible system of justice in the state of Maine.
Hello and welcome to Youth in Politics. I'm your host, Justin Chenette. While the 2008 presidential election is making headlines, a local race is also making news. In 2007, Congressman Tom Allen announced plans to run against incumbent U.S. Senator Susan Collins. Since then, there have been 8 individuals vying for the 2 slots to go head-to-head in November. There are 6 Democrats and 2 Republicans running for District 1 U.S. Representative.
The number one issue in this country right now is the economy. Citizens, politicians, and the nation's leading economists are divided over whether the economy is in a recession or simply a slowdown of growth. In your opinion, is this nation in a recession?
You know, I'm not an economist, but like everyone else, I'm looking at the price of gas, the concerns people have about their jobs.
As you may have ascertained by now, I have little desire to follow the tried and true, boring and solemn path to electoral disaster. I intend to say some very serious things, but I don't see any reason to be funeral about it all. I must assume that the GOP prefers a candidate who is solemn but not serious over a candidate who is serious but not solemn. A candidate who is serious, as opposed to a serious candidate, as you well know, has no prospect of victory in American politics. So there is little danger of my being exiled to the District of Columbia. Still, the prospect of making new enemies is damned inviting. That's a quote from your candidacy.
That's correct.
From that statement, it seems not only do you realize that you're facing an uphill battle in this election, but it seems almost like you're making light of the situation or joking about it. Do you really believe that you can win against a 3-term Democratic incumbent?
Incumbents, Democrat or Republican, generally hold on 97% of the time.
Freedom, liberty, democracy, independent. They are what make America and Maine great. It's your government, but only if you get out and vote. Make your voice heard. Register, then vote on June 10th. And on election night, trust TATV to bring you the results and live coverage from around Saco, because it's your future at stake and every vote counts. Vote on Election Day and keep it tuned to TATV for non-stop 2008 election coverage.